Welcome back, guys. Well, today I'm here in the kitchen and I want to show you how to make sourdough bread. I know that yeast has been really hard to come by these days with the pandemic, and with sourdough bread you don't have to have a store-bought yeast. You can make your own culture of bacteria and yeast to leaven your bread, and it makes a wonderful loaf of bread that you guys will enjoy. And I'm going to show you how to make the starter culture, and I'm also going to show you how to make the bread from start to finish. Stay tuned. So you just need a nice clean jar and some flour. I'm using a little bit of the cabin winter wheat flour and all-purpose flour. What you need to do next is basically take a cup of flour, all-purpose mixed with the cabin flour that I'm using, and half a cup of water. Next, you'll stir it together with a fork or a chopstick. Make sure you mix it really well. And then what we'll do is we'll let it settle on the counter. It's all mixed up, and you can see the whole grain nature of the winter wheat that I have in there. So now we're going to put a lid on it and keep it at room temperature for the next day or so. Here we are 12 hours in. Let's take a look at the sourdough starter. Take the lid off. Whoa, it's already bubbling and active. I'm so excited. I guess the winter wheat has had a lot of wild yeast in it from the cabin. I'm really impressed so far. So now we got to feed it for the day. So what you have to do today is remove half of the starter, which I've just put over there, and we're going to add in another cup of flour and half a cup of water and mix it together with a fork. Okay, well, let's mix this up. Then after we're done mixing, we let it sit and we revisit the sourdough starter tomorrow. This is day 3 of the starter, and you can see how much expansion's happened. That's crazy. Let's take a look. Whoa, that's awesome. So now I have to discard all but half a cup of this, add a cup of flour and half a cup of water, and we're gonna do that twice a day now. So here we are in the kitchen on the day of making the sourdough bread. I want to start this recipe early in the morning, and it's a really cool recipe that I found online, and I'll put, just message me for the full recipe. So what we're going to do, I only have all-purpose flour due to the whole pandemic situation. So I'm going to put in a large bowl 460 grams of all-purpose flour, and I've got 9 grams of salt. Really important to measure things exactly for a sourdough recipe so you get what you're hoping for. And this is my starter. It was like really nice and bubbly. And this morning I'd fed it the night before, and it's on the rise. So that's kind of when you want to use it. So this is 92 grams of my starter, which is my yeast. And I might have to get a fork to get that out of there. It's kind of slow to slide out. Some of the starters tend to be really liquidy. Some tend to be nice and thick and stringy. It's got my starter in there, and I'm going to add to start 290 grams of water. We can add a bit more, like an extra 50 if we need it. But now with wet hands, I'm going to mix this all together. It does make quite a mess, so I want to make it till it's kind of a cohesive ball. And if it's too wet, you definitely don't want to add more water. If it's too dry, we can definitely add some more water. Let's just do this. Doing this all by hand, but of course if you had a mixer, you can do that. And this will go a lot quicker if your house is warm for the day. So you can, a lot of this stuff will happen at 24 degrees Celsius. Now Royce is the one interrupting my videos. This is pretty funny. He's antagonizing the cat in the background. All right, so it's coming along. I don't think I need to add any more water to this. But what you do want to do is just kind of fold it over and mix it together for about 5 minutes or so. Just until it's kind of a cohesive ball and nice and stretchy. So you can see here I can kind of pull it like that. It's nice and stretchy. I really don't want to add extra water at this point. So using all-purpose flour, this won't rise as much. Definitely takes a lot less water than any other recipe as well. Okay, so here we are. You can see it's expanded a little bit. So what you want to do is basically wet hands, take and fold this over, rotate it, fold it over, rotate it, fold it over to kind of make more of a ball, and then put it back in the oven for another 15 minutes. Start to see the dough getting stretchier. It's nice. That's what we want. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to put that back in my oven a little bit warmer at the light bulb on. But of course, if you have a warm house, about 24, 25 Celsius, you can just leave it on the counter. So this is the last folding that I'll be doing. And then we'll put this back in my little warm spot there. So I just took it out and it looks like I'll need a little bit more time. Like I said, it's still pretty cool in the house. So I want it to be a little bit more domed and have a few more bubbles kind of on the surface. So I'm going to put this back in and I'll keep checking in on it. While we're waiting for the sourdough to improve before putting it to its final form, I just want to show you some of the things I foraged this week. I just did a quick foray actually this morning for these items here. So we've got some horsetail, dryad saddle, nettles, and garlic mustard. I also have to process a bunch of wild leek and a whole bag of fiddleheads. So this is awesome. The forest is actually my grocery store, at least nowadays, for a few choice edibles. So no morels, but definitely a lot of good stuff. So I'll use the horsetail for tea. Nettles, I'll make tea. Garlic mustard, probably a pesto. This, I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with the leeks. I made some leek butter the other day, and I'll show you that. I don't know. I might just process that and freeze it and deal with it later. And the fiddleheads I'll blanch and freeze for later use. Just want to show you a couple other things I found while doing a quick foray while waiting for the sourdough to rise. I found a couple of raccoon skulls, so that was pretty cool. This one was sitting on top of a log, and I thought from a distance it was like a mushroom or something like that. And then I found this one just underneath it. So on my clean work surface, I'm just going to do a pre-shape of the bread. So we're just going to take it out here with some, again, my hands will be a little bit damp to work with the dough, and I'm going to kind of fold it over to start its shape. Really elastic and sticky. So I've let it sit for about 20 minutes. Now I'm going to put it over onto a floured surface and do the final shaping. All right, so I'm just going to flour the surfaces in my hands. And I'm going to bring it over here. All right. Kind of want a ball shape. You can see some of the bubbles actually poking out on the side here. It's a good sign. I'm not a professional at sourdough bread making, but I think it's turning out okay. It looks pretty good. So the boule is shaped nicely, and I've got this on a tea towel with a bit of flour in there so it doesn't stick. And now we'll cover it and let it proof for a few more hours. So I've got my Dutch oven in the stove here at 450 Fahrenheit, just a little bit of oil burning off the top there because my sourdough is ready for baking. So I'm just going to take a quick peek here. Oh yeah, it's looking good. So I've got some parchment paper here. I'm going to turn this out onto the parchment paper, and then we're going to bake it in the Dutch oven for 20 minutes with a lid on at 450, and then we'll take the lid off and cook it for another 30 minutes. But I want to show you the next really cool step before I stick it in the oven. All right, so I have it here on the parchment paper and I've generously sort of floured under it and on the top. Now I want to make whatever pattern you kind of want on the top that sourdough bread is famous for, but just make sure to make a deep cut. So I'm going to do that. So I made a Z shape because I think that'll look kind of cool, and then the flour will accent that area. So I'm going to lift this now into the really hot Dutch oven. Be really careful when you do this, guys. Right, so it's in there nice and steady. You don't want to drop this at this point. You put a lot of work into it. So now I'm going to put the lid on and we'll cook it for 20 minutes. And then I'll take the lid off and do it for another 30. So my timer just went off for the 20-minute mark. Oh my goodness, look at that. Woohoo. All right, let's pop her back in. I'm going to take the lid off now. 30 minutes. Well, a picture's worth 1,000 words. Take a look at that. I think it turned out great. Nice hard crust on it. Ooh, this is going to be great. We're going to have to let it cool though, guys, before we try it. So I'd recommend to leave it on the counter for 1 to 2 hours to cool before you slice into it and enjoy it. Let's cut into it. Ooh, so nice and crusty. It's a nice sourdough smell. Doesn't that look great? Excellent. Let's take a look at this part. Oh yeah. Well, I've got a few things to try this with. I'm going to try it with some homemade ramp butter and then with grape jelly. Here's the ramp butter that I made. This is made with wild leek mixed with a bit of lemon juice and salt and pepper and of course butter. So we'll try that. Oh my gosh, that's good. That is fantastic, guys. Wow. 2 thumbs up for me. This is awesome. I'm so excited to be able to make bread, without having store-bought yeast. It has that nice, acidic flavor to it from the lactic acid bacteria in the culture, and the yeast causes it to leaven really nicely. Wow, this is an awesome recipe. Let me know if you guys are interested in doing more baking episodes like this. I certainly like it when I cook these kinds of foods, and it's super timely given the pandemic we're in and the shortages with lots of different things that we put in our food like yeast. So this goes to show you can make sourdough bread with all-purpose flour. It's a little bit better if you make it with bread flour because you can get even a higher rise to your loaf of bread because there's a higher protein content in the in that flour. But hey, not bad for all-purpose flour and homemade culture. All right, if you guys have any questions, leave them down below in the comments, or if you have any suggestions for me being a newbie at making sourdough bread, leave them down below in the comments. Hope you guys have a wonderful week as always. Take care.